Hello and welcome to Neighborhood Unitarian Universalist Church in Pasadena. Welcome to all members, friends, and guests joining us virtually. Neighborhood Church creates and grows an inclusive community of faith connected by love, spirit, and service. My name is Myrna Peterson, and it is my privilege to serve on our Board of Trustees. Today's service is led by our interim minister, Reverend Dr. Teresa Cooley, our music director, Dr. Zenaida Robles, accompanist Wells Lang, and soloist Adrian Banuelos. Thank you for joining us as we continue to prioritize connection over perfection in this live stream service, which we are recording for future viewing on our YouTube channel. We will continuously learn and adapt to create joyful opportunities to be together while keeping our community safe. To that end, everyone participating in today's service took a COVID rapid test to ensure we are all negative. There are many ways to connect with our church community throughout the week. Due to the Omicron surge, most of those opportunities are virtual. Whether you're new or ready to find new ways to engage, please visit our website and social media to learn more. Neighborhood Church upholds a covenant of right relations through which we commit to act so that the needs of the individual and the greater faith community can be in harmony. We covenant to honor one another, engage one another, and give to one another and our institution. Again, welcome to Neighborhood Church, whoever you are and wherever you are in your spiritual journey. Welcome to this inclusive faith community connected by love, spirit, and service.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us for our worship service online this morning. What our faith asks of us, what our faith imagines for us, is that somehow, right at that moment when our hearts break, we will find our way to see through that heartbreak. We will stay put, not close off, not run away, not hurt back, but keep on being in relationship, doing what we can to repair the world and each other. And this we can continue to do. In this hope and for this purpose, we gather for worship on this day. And this morning, I light the chalice in sadness and in solidarity with the Jewish people around the country who have had to witness an extreme act of violent anti-Semitism, which just reawakens so many fears, and we pledge ourselves to stand against this hate.
Please join us in singing our opening hymn, number 1008 of the Teal Hymnal, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place.
Each Sunday, our congregation expands our impact by dedicating 100% of contributions to a local social justice organization. This Sunday and next Sunday's Share the Plate donations go to the Villa Gardens Scholarship Fund, which is administered through the Front Porch Foundation. This fund supports the academic pursuits of Villa Gardens employees, many of whom are from working class and immigrant communities. Join me in learning about this fund through current Villa Gardens staff members, residents, and past scholarship recipients. Donations can be made through our website, text to give, or by mailing a check to the church specifying Share the Plate in the subject line. Please give generously.
I am thrilled to be part of this community and of what we're able to provide, and having a wonderful place for residents to thrive, to be able to give back, to enjoy every stage of their life. I'm also excited to have a wonderful community for people to work at. Our opportunity to have scholarships available enable our staff to be able to grow. And whether that's an opportunity within the senior housing industry, or if it's in another venue, it's still something that allows them to make their life better for themselves, their families, and the surrounding community. So I'm very excited that we have it and that you are being a part of that to help us grow and offer this to our staff. So thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Villa Gardens was started by the California Teachers Association. So there's always been a very strong influence on education here. Most of those of us who live here now as residents have had help along the way with our own educational experiences. And in a way, it is, I would say, paying it forward because we've been helped so much in the past. The Front Porch Communities Foundation is the fiduciary involved in the process. They sequester the money that has been given on a voluntary basis by the residents here. And within the Villa Gardens community, our responsibility is to select the candidates for the scholarships.
I'm a director of social services at Villa Gardens Health Center. I build these relationships with residents as they come into the health center and support them and listen to their stories and come out with the goals and reach the goals that they have set for themselves. I started learning about the community resources and the foundation and the support that they give. And one of the goals I had was to get my master's. So when my kids were teenagers, I figured that was a good time, but financially wasn't sure how that was going to work. I learned about the scholarship. I think that just motivated me more to pursue it, having a peace of mind that part of that was going to be covered.
I can see that it is helping many of our very talented employees reach a potential that they probably can't reach without help. We had a very charming, talented, helpful employee in our life enrichment facilities here, and we supported her as she went on to get her master's degree. Her goal was to become a school counselor, and she has achieved that goal. And while we were sorry to lose her because we truly loved her, we were thrilled to help her reach her goal. There was a quotation by Senator Warnock from Georgia that really appealed to me. And said, "A vote is a prayer we give for our children." I'd like to adapt that just a little bit and say, my involvement is a prayer we give for our employees.
Give to me the life I love, let the life go by me. Give the jolly heaven above, bush with stars to see, bread I dip in the river. There's the life for a man like me. There's the life forever. Let the blow for soon or late, let what will be o'er me. Give the face of earth around, and the road before me. Wealth I seek not, hope nor love, nor a friend to know me. All I ask, the heaven above, and the road below me. Oh, let autumn fall on me, where afield I linger. Silent seen the bird on tree, white in the blow finger, white as meal the frosty field, on the far side haven. Not to autumn will I yield, not to winter even. Let the blow for soon or late, let what will be o'er me. Give the face of earth around, and the road before me. Wealth I ask not, hope nor love, nor a friend to know me. All I ask, the heaven above, and the road below me.
Thank you, Adrian. I'm sorry I messed up the slides. That was actually The Vagabond by Rafe Vaughan Williams. Please join me in the spirit of prayer, of meditation, of reflection. As I share in these words from the great Thich Nhat Hanh, from his book, No Death, No Fear, as we honor and commemorate his life and his passing this week. He wrote, "This body is not me. I am not caught in this body. I am life without boundaries. I have never been born and I have never died. Over there, the wide ocean and the sky with many galaxies, all manifests from the basis of consciousness. Since beginningless time, I have always been free. Birth and death are only a door through which we go in and out. Birth and death are only a game of hide and seek. So smile to me and take my hand and wave goodbye. Tomorrow we shall meet again, or even before. We shall always be meeting again at the true source. Always meeting again on the myriad paths of life." That gives me great comfort at the passing of Thich Nhat Hanh. And many of you may have also lost loved ones or those who mean much to you, or those who are struggling. If you wish, please write in the chat on YouTube those whom you wish to bring to our consciousness, those whom you wish to welcome into this loving community. Amen.
This is The Oneness of Everything by Jim Scott.
Far beyond the grasp of hands, or light to meet the eye, past the reaches of the mind. There find the key to nature's harmony in an architecture so entwined. Like the birds whose patterns grace the sky and carry all who join in love expanding, the message of peace will rise in flight, taking the weight of the world upon its wings, in the oneness of everything. Peace is in the dance of trees who stir before the first breath of wind is yet perceived. Trust in the song becoming one with the dance, and all mysteries can be believed. Songs of lives long past that touch our own are written in the earth, ever giving. And now to maintain the harmony gives to us all lives with living, for the oneness of everything. Still, we seek to find a truth that we might understand and reduce to terms defined. Vast and immeasurable time and space, also overwhelmingly designed. Oh, passing years, just might I know the faith that winters in the heart to be reborn in spring, to hear and to feel the pulse of life enters my soul as a song to sing.
Our reading this morning is from a new book called The Extended Mind by Annie Murphy Paul. She says, our culture insists that the brain is the sole locus of thinking, a cordoned off space where cognition happens, much as the workings of my laptop are sealed in its aluminum case. But what if our faith in this idea is misplaced? What if the directive to use your head, ubiquitous though it may be, is misguided? A burgeoning body of research suggests that we have it exactly backwards. As it is, we use our brains entirely too much, to the detriment of our ability to think intelligently. What we need to do is to think outside the brain. Thinking outside the brain means skillfully engaging entities external to our heads, the feelings and movements of our bodies, the physical spaces in which we learn and work, the minds of other people around us, drawing them into our own mental processes. By reaching beyond the brain to recruit these extra neural resources, we're able to focus actually more intently, comprehend more deeply, create more imaginatively, to entertain ideas that would literally be unthinkable by the brain alone. It's true that we're more accustomed to thinking about our bodies, our spaces, and our relationships, but we can also think with and through those by using the movements of our hands to understand and express abstract concepts, for example, or by arranging our workplace in ways that promote idea generation, or by engaging in social practices like teaching and storytelling that lead to deeper understanding and more accurate memory. Rather than exhorting ourselves and others to use our heads, we should be applying extra neural resources to the project of thinking outside the skull's circumference. Because as long as we settle for thinking only inside of the brain, we will remain bound by the limits of that organ. But when we reach outside of it with intention and skill, our thinking can be transformed. It can become as dynamic as our bodies, as airy as our spaces, as rich as our relationships, and as capacious as the whole wide world.
Please join us in singing our meditative hymn, number 1012, When I Am Frightened.
When I am frightened, will you reassure me? When I'm uncertain, will you hold my hand? Will you be strong for me? Sing to me quietly. Will you share
There are many things that can be said about Facebook, for good or for ill, but sometimes it offers up the humor that you need just at the moment that you need it. Most recently, I saw this posting that's a riff off of the Serenity Prayer. Someone I don't know called Ivan Coyote said, "I have officially run out of enough serenity to accept the things that I cannot change. There's simply not enough blankety blank serenity to be had at this point." Maybe that's a supply chain thing too. I don't know. I am so with you, Ivan Coyote. Everyone I know seems to have hit the wall this month, feeling depleted and enervated and darn near hopeless. And I'm here today to give you full permission to feel that way. The last thing you need is for me to tell you to buck up and get over it. You get to feel the way that you feel. But something that actually did make me feel better recently was reading the book, The Extended Mind, that I just quoted from. Not only did it make my brain explode with dozens of new ways of thinking about just that, the brain, but it helped me understand one of the reasons why the pandemic has been so hard on us. All the things we've been having to endure, isolation, staying inside, distancing from others, being talking heads, talking to talking heads, actually inhibits our brains, inhibits our thinking. We literally cannot think our way through this. I experienced this just last weekend when I took a short trip up to the mid-coast part of California. Just getting out of my house for an extended period of time, seeing new and beautiful vistas, walking on the beach, watching my dogs joyfully scamper and run was a healing balm to my spirit. I came back feeling more refreshed and energized than I had been in weeks. Could I have had the same experience by reading a book about the same area or even watching a movie about it? Clearly not. My brain needed new physical space and visual stimuli in person. But delving into this book gave me a new kind of insight into any number of other things. By making it clear that clear and creative thinking takes place both within and beyond our skulls, Murphy presents evidence that should transform the way that we understand and engage in education, or in workplace interactions, or in our relationships. To go a little bit deeper into what she says, the classical understanding of thinking is that it happens when we are quiet and still and exercising what we used to think of as just that muscle of the brain. In fact, the brain is not a muscle. The brain is endless synapses that need interaction and that need stimulation. And in fact, for most people, moving the body, at least at a moderate pace, makes the brain work better. It's not that sitting still and cogitating are bad or ineffective. It's just that not everyone learns that way. And in fact, the evidence of this book shows that few people learn that way. Yet we still impose it on our students the majority of the time. It also turns out that passively listening to someone speak is the least effective way that we can learn. What says something about this method that we call preaching, which is something I'll get to in a moment. Murphy, instead of thinking about the brain as a computer or the brain as a muscle, uses the analogy of the brain as a magpie. She tells of how a magpie literally once shut down an entire large swath of Seoul, South Korea. Magpies make their nests out of whatever materials are around, and when they're in dense urban areas without natural things at hand, they will use electrical wires or metal hangers or antennas to create their nests. And because these things conduct electricity, they can disrupt the entire electrical system of a major city. But similarly, the brain needs things outside of itself to think. The most creative and useful thinking happens by tapping into the wisdom of our bodies, engaging in embodied conversation, experiencing new environments, exercising, finding ourselves in sync with one another. And without these natural extensions, without these natural things that our magpie brain can claim, the brain atrophies. And collectively, without all of us being able to engage in this kind of creative activity, a whole society can find itself short-circuited. It's hard to let go of our custom understandings of the mind being this individual static thing and the fantasy that we are in complete control of our brains. As the comedian Emo Phillips said, "I used to think that the brain was the most wonderful organ in my body. And then I realized who was telling me this." I've been fascinated by the insights of brain science for years. Another book that was similarly revelatory for me was a book called An Alchemy of Mind by Diane Ackerman. And one of the insights that she had that has stood out for me is how we think about what we think of as rationality. We like to think that we're constantly and consciously making deliberate choices about everything that we do. But in fact, simply living requires many things that we do to be simply by instinct. And what we like to call rationality is actually often finding ways to rationalize the behaviors that we have already engaged in. I know this from observing my own learning style. A decade or so ago, I decided to take up photography. Up to that point, I'd never done anything other than appreciate photographs. And so I bought any number of books about it and some expensive equipment, and I sat down in my living room to learn photography. After a few hours of feeling like I wasn't taking anything in, what are f-stops? Randy, maybe you can help me? Finally, I gave up on this way of doing things, and I signed up for an adult ed course on photography, which combined hands-on training with field trips and critiques of classmates. And suddenly, it started to sink in. Years of sitting quietly reading instruction manuals would never have gotten me to that place. A part of what makes me so interested in things like this is that it helps us find a way of addressing the huge inequities in the world. If we continue to believe that we are totally and only in control of our brain by concentrated thinking, then that naturally leads us to the idea that some people are better at thinking than others. A story to illustrate this point. A computer scientist named Sugata Mitra was employed by the educational system in India to try to figure out how he could use technology to help deliver education to the large swaths of India that didn't have access to traditional education. In the beginning, he thought, my efforts are going to fail. Why am I doing this? Because he didn't believe there would be any substitute for in-person teaching and learning. But he did an experiment where he set up a computer terminal in a tiny little village in which hardly anyone had any formal education. And the predominant language was Tamil. He set up this computer, which tapped into the internet only through the English language, and gathered the children of the village together and said, I want you to learn everything that you can about biotechnology by using this computer. And then he left. He came back 2 weeks later and asked them, "What did you learn?" And they said, "Nothing." He said, "Nothing? How often did you look at it and play with it?" And they said, "Every day." "And you still learned nothing?" Finally, one little girl piped up and said, "Except for the fact that the improper replication of the DNA molecules causes genetic disease, we learned nothing." So clearly, having equal access to information, even information that may seem completely out of context or unfamiliar, stimulates a new kind of thinking and challenges our assumptions about what intelligence really is. Confronting some of these stultifying myths about education helps release a new kind of creativity. The Sufi poet Hafiz put it this way: "We have a duty to befriend those aspects of obedience that stand outside of our house and shout to us, 'Oh please, come out and play.'" Understanding thinking in this way also breaks us out of myths of supreme individualism, when in fact we need one another to think and to learn and to grow effectively. And in fact, we need a diversity of others to grow into our best selves. In her poem about the great African-American singer Paul Robeson, Gwendolyn Brooks wrote, "That time we all heard it, cool and clear, cutting across the hot grid of the day, the major voice, the adult voice, foregoing rolling river, foregoing tearful tale of bale and barge and other symptoms of an old despond, warning in music words, devout and large, that we are each other's harvest. We are each other's business. We are each other's magnitude and bond." And this brings me to the religious implications found in this new way of thinking about thinking. In some ways, it is what we Unitarian Universalists have said all along about religion. Sacred and traditional sources can be inspirational, but we affirm that the deepest wisdom comes from within, not just experts telling us what to believe. We have long affirmed the interconnected web of all existence of which we are a part. We believe in striving for equity for all, and we recognize that we need one another to reinforce in us what is good. Back in the 1920s, the Unitarian minister A. Powell Davies said, "Let me tell you why I come to church. I come to church and would, whether I was a preacher or not, because I fall below my own standards all the time, and I need to be brought back to them. I'm afraid of becoming selfish and indulgent, and my church, this church of the free spirit, brings me back to what I want to be. I could easily despair, doubt and dismay could overwhelm me, but my church renews my hope and my courage. It's not enough that I should think about the world and its problems at the level of a newspaper report or magazine discussion. I must have my conscience sharpened until it goads me to the most thorough and responsible thinking of which I am capable. I must feel again the love that I owe to others. I must not only hear about it, but feel it. In church, I do. I'm brought toward my best in every way toward my best. The root meaning of the word religion harks back to Latin elements which mean to bind together. The religious enterprise is something that cannot just happen alone. You may be able to be spiritual by yourself, but religion is something that happens in community, connected to others, past, present, and future. My colleague Byron Tyler Coles recently wrote, "Religion and the various stories that come along with any one tradition are more than analogies that offer simple comfort for when the day becomes cumbersome. They instead provide roadmaps to remember us. Remember onto us the powers which run through our veins and usher us to the precipice of creation, where we conjure something beautiful for ourselves, each other, and for those who are still to come." So lastly, this research makes me wonder whether we should rethink some of the ways in which we do worship. I remember being told in preaching class that people really take in only about a third of what you say in a sermon, a third at best. So maybe we should do this preaching thing differently. Maybe we should all wander around the grounds with earbuds in our heads and take in a sermon in a completely different ambulatory way. Maybe we should find even more ways for people to process their religious insights together. That's part of why we offer the online processing opportunities after the service. All good things to think about. I welcome your ideas and your insights because ultimately it is about what we create and live into together. Again, from Annie Murphy Paul, as long as we settle for thinking inside the brain, we'll remain bound by the limits of that organ. But when we reach outside of it with intention and skill, our thinking can be transformed. It can become as dynamic as our bodies, as airy as our spaces, as rich as our relationships, as capacious as the whole wide world. So may it be. Amen.
Please join us in singing our closing hymn, number 1001, Breaths.
Listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath, where the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath, in the voice of the waters. Zah, whoosh, ah, whoosh. Those who have died have never, never left. The dead are not under the earth. They are in the rustling trees. They are in the growing woods. They are in the crying grass. They are in the moaning rocks. The dead are not under the earth. So listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath, when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath, in the voice of the waters. Zah, whoosh, ah, whoosh. Those who have died have never, never left. The dead have a pact with the living. They are in the woman's breast. They are in the wailing child. They are with us
Our benediction comes from the poet E.E. Cummings, with apologies for the masculine, male-centered language. May my heart always be open to little birds who are the secrets of living. Whatever they sing is better than to know, and if men should not hear them, men are old. May my mind stroll about, hungry and fearless and thirsty and supple. And even if it's Sunday, may I be wrong, for whenever men are right, they are not young. And may myself do nothing usefully, and love yourself so more than truly. There's never been quite such a fool who could fall, pulling all the sky over him with one smile. Amen. May we go out into this glorious day upheld by the love of this community.